And what's the gorilla for? That's not tiki.
Hi everyone, my name is Ray, or some of you might know me as Tiki With Ray, and today me and my buddy Jason Craig here, future author for, what's the name of that magazine you're going to be part of?
Exotica Moderne.
Exotica Moderne. We're here at the Devil's Reef in Tacoma, Washington, and today we're going to talk about something that's, God, I hope I don't get thrown to the lions for this one.
You're about to commit the ultimate tiki sin.
Yeah, and it's a situation where this is all opinion and theory, so I'm not tied to any idea. But you always hear this. I'm sure. How many times have you heard this? Is this tiki?
or just the simple, that's not tiki.
Well, that's not tiki.
But the idea is just because it's not tiki canon, not oh my God, that's tiki. Doesn't mean that it isn't something that you can enjoy that's going to play nice with tiki.
Yeah.
Well, what we've started calling tiki adjacent.
Tiki adjacent.
I can't say we came up with that, but I know it's come up in conversation a ton of times.
Did you call it adjacent because that's your name in it?
Yeah, it's a tiki adjacent.
Tiki adjacent.
So yeah, just pretty much meaning anything that's right next to or goes well with tiki, but maybe it isn't tiki in and of itself, but it's accepted.
Yeah. I subscribe to the Sven Kirsten idea that the only thing that's tiki is the tikis.
Right. The actual carved idols, whether they're wood, stone, ceramic mugs and their likenesses, that is directly tiki. But we're part of a culture of good times that incorporates all that.
Yeah. So I started really thinking about this. I was in New Jersey. In New Jersey, there's, for some reason, there's 3 Chinese tiki bars. Full-on Chinese, but yet tiki bars. Mm-hmm. And I had a great time, and I thought about it. I'm like, oh my God, all you would literally have to do is take out the tikis, and it's a Chinese restaurant.
It's just a Chinese restaurant.
So then it started making me think, it's like you have the basic building blocks of what a tiki bar would be. Bamboo, matting, thatch. But none of those things are like tiki in and of itself.
But yeah, and then they throw in a little bit of nautical, some sort of, usually some sort of water feature, like a waterfall or a fountain of some sort.
A waterfall in and of itself is not
right.
tiki. Those floating balls, fishermen's balls, that's exactly what they are.
Fishing floats?
Yeah.
Japanese fishing floats? The glass balls or spheres?
Yeah, what's tiki about that? Nothing.
I think because the original... Don the Beachcomber, because he used a lot of flotsam and jetsam, things that a beachcomber would find washed up on the beach.
Yeah.
And if you were in the Pacific, you'd find Japanese fishing floats.
Yeah.
And nets and pieces of ships and other bric-a-brac.
I honestly feel that when the original guys like Don the Beach, Victor Bergeron, Stephen Crane, when they were making their tiki bars, I don't think that they had any rules, so to speak. I think they kind of made up the rules as they went along.
Well, I think originally, it was it was a beachcomber thing. It was, okay, you're in an exotic locale and you're taking what's around you.
Yeah.
But then I think the tiki idols themselves caught on, especially when you had, Tiki Bob being the first major mascot, sort of tiki.
Yeah, well...
And then that was a way to bring people into the bars because they took to those idols, that symbology, the statuary.
This is all what I like to call classic Polynesian pop. Mm-hmm. The picture of what I think of when I think of a tiki bar, the golden age of tiki, the 40, the 50s, 60s, whatever. But then when you start, for example, fezzes.
The good old fez.
The good old fez, as you're not wearing yours right now. So, a fez isn't tiki. No. It's actually from Morocco.
Right, but it became in America, and I imagine other Western nations, a symbol of esoteric knowledge and something exotic, because the early fraternal orders, organizations of men that got together for socializing and networking for all intents and purposes, tried to make it more mystical. And at that time, for America, mystical was the Middle East.
Yeah.
So Egypt, Morocco, that part of the world was where they were looking towards enlightenment.
But it's definitely not tiki.
So they became part of mid-century Americana, and when there was a tiki revival, it was part of the whole mid-century revival as well.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that you see with a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
With the revival of the tiki, we borrowed some of the elements from the mid-century with it. It wasn't necessarily tiki, but hey, now it kind of is. And what it's bringing me to is, well, essentially now that we're in the third wave of tiki, there's a lot of things that I'm starting to see. Like for example, like the yacht rock. Rory from the Devil's Reef is like all about it, and he's put it on Circa and stuff like that.
The Reef in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's I see a lot of like there's a lot of the women, they wear like the sarongs and the muumuus, but the flower hair pieces are starting to become really, really popular. There's even a small thing where I'm starting to see people kind of adopting like the Magnum PI kind of thing.
The 80s tiki remnants.
Yeah.
Hawaiiana of the 80s.
Hawaiiana.
In American popular culture.
But I think what we have to think about is like, I mean, the original guys like Don the Beachcomber, Victor Verjon, maybe they kind of set down of what the rules of tiki are back then. But as time is going to go on, and if you're going to have people that are younger, people that are in their 20s and their 30s, the 70s and the 80s to them is like vintage.
It's nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're going to incorporate some of the things that they might think.
Well, you think it's not like tiki was one thing. Starting out in the 30s, then becoming what we think of as tiki more late 40s and through the 50s, and then existing through the 60s, then you would say maybe getting watered down through the 70s and pretty much disappearing in the 80s, then getting kind of rejuvenated in the 90s, and then coming back hard in the 2000s.
Yeah. I think...
But each era contributed its own thing. Like mid-century architecture and tiki went together in trying to bring natural objects into the space, like stone, not so much brick, but stone, wood.
Yeah.
That the darker colors, the lighting, and the architectural forms of things like cantilevers or A-frames.
I think we're in an exciting time because you had the first wave, which was, we all know how that went. The second wave of tiki was definitely more like a reclaiming the interest in tiki. And what I understand, if you were into tiki in the 90s, you were more about just going to the tiki bars that were still existing. Or you were getting the mugs that you would find.
That you would find thrifting and bits and pieces of old places that were gone.
But you weren't.
Tiki lounge.
But no one was making new tiki mugs. There wasn't really any new tiki bars opening up. Well, now there are. Now there's a whole bunch of tiki mug makers. There's new tiki bars opening up. And with that, you're going to have some new ideas. As I said before, the only thing that's tiki is the tikis. But maybe we're at a point where like we should open our eyes, open our minds and ideas to like, well, hey, maybe, the tikis, but maybe these other new elements can be adopted into it.
Right. Well, there's also,
are you for that or against that?
I'm all for it. Well, is it your home bar or is it a commercial bar? That's a big question right there too. Because if it's your home bar, if it's your home bar, make it exactly what you want. Make it the place that feels right to you. If it's a commercial bar, you've got to appeal to a bigger audience. So do you want to stay on that core and say your traditional tiki? Do you want to be a reinterpretation? Do you want to be modern woke tiki or something like that?
But do you think anyone who's younger anyway would care about that at this point?
It depends. There's that concept of cultural appropriation where there are tiki bars that are opening that are not comfortable with having actual tikis. They call it a tiki bar, but they have no tikis in there because they see them as religious idols.
So be it.
So
Well, on the flip side of it, there's Lost Lake in Chicago. It's as much of a tiki bar as any tiki bar that I've been to. No tikis.
But that was a conscious decision on their part.
Yeah. But I'll be honest with you, Jason. It's one of those things where like I didn't even realize that there wasn't any tikis in it until someone told me after the fact.
Because you enjoyed the atmosphere, you enjoyed the cocktails, you liked being there.
there's a lot of people. My friend Jeremy, hey Jeremy Cash Dollar. We're talking about like, well, what, like, you know, I like, for me it's the core first, the core, then the drinks, then the music. But for him, the drinks are paramount. And maybe for a lot of people out there, when they think of tiki, for them, the drinks, that's the important thing. We're in an interesting time. Well, how do you think things are going to go?
I think you're going to see it diversifying more, that you're going to see more different concepts of tiki. I think you're going to see more places that are very watered down, that are barely tiki. I think you're going to see more places opening up calling themselves tiki that are more of a Key West kind of a Parrot Head sort of thing, more of a beach bar than a tiki bar, but they're calling it a tiki bar because tiki bar is a recognized term again.
Well, I don't think there's going to be too much bleed over between the whole Jimmy Buffett Parrot Head thing and tiki, because the Margaritaville Jimmy Buffett thing, those parameters have already been set and have been set for a long time. So I kind of think that's already its own thing. And tiki kind of has its own thing going on. But it definitely seems like we're having a lot more people come into it that are coming at it at different angles and with different focuses. It's an interesting time. I'm curious to see what the fourth wave of tiki is going to be like. Yeah, what they're going to add to it, because okay. One of the arguments that I've seen online that I thought was kind of funny is what birds are allowed in tiki. What birds are allowed in tiki?
What birds are allowed, because you've got some people that are okay with parrots and some people that hate parrots.
Wow. Because the parrot head thing.
Right. Well, yeah, because some people are just, the idea of anything even remotely related to Jimmy Buffett upsets their tiki. But then, you know, people that are into Disney tiki, well, how can you be into Disney tiki and not like parrots?
Yeah, one thing you got to remind yourself is that for a lot of people, they're not just into like one thing.
Right.
There's a lot of people that are into tiki just as much as they're into Jimmy Buffett. And you were saying about like their home tiki bar. No rules, you know, they can do whatever they want.
Or, you know, do you want to be more of a beachcomber type than a Polynesian pop type? Do you want more nautical stuff? Do you like pirate stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a bar right now that could be argued that it's how much percentage pirate, how much percentage H.P. Lovecraft, how much percentage, you know, dark nautical, and how much percentage traditional tiki, but it all gels together really nicely.
You know what? I think that answers it. Just like how you were saying, like with a lot of the home tiki bars, that's where you see the uniqueness, and that's where you see the bar owner's personal interests being thrown into the mix. And I'm okay with that. Like if you have like commercial tiki bars where like the owner is like, no, I'm gonna have a little bit of my personality thrown in. I think that's great. Tonight we shall tiki.
Tonight we shall tiki.
Hoist o'clock. We shall tiki. That's delightful.
Tonight we shall tiki.
I wouldn't kick her out of bed.
Fruit and crackers.
I like those haunches. Hey gang, this is Tiki with Ray, and I just want to say thank you very much for checking out my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more episodes, click on the subscribe button. And if you liked the video, give it a like. That would mean a lot to me. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave a comment in the comment section below.